I've written up some notes that can help you with both your research and finding the type of articles that are needed for the research and adult education assignment that's coming up. And I can email these notes to you when I'm done, but I just wanted to walk through a few things with you. I think these might be helpful. And I apologize because they are a little bit on the long side, as is this recording going to be, but I think the information will be helpful, and then you have it to go back and look at again in the future, or it may end up sparking some questions for you that you have. So just to get started, I think the first strategy for working on narrowing your search results so that you're actually just looking at the kinds of articles that are considered scholarly and peer-reviewed to begin with is, rather than searching in a general search engine like Google, go back and just focus your searches in a library database that is likely to have the types of articles that you need. Or if you want to use Google, start specifically with Google Scholar and add CityU to your settings so that when results come up that the library at CityU has full text access to, you'll see a little link there that says full text. By the way, am going to apologize in advance for any background noises that you hear because I am recording this in an open environment and can't filter out street traffic or other random noises that might pop up. And actually, let me go ahead and type in here the library website for you, so you can just click on that directly. Sorry about that. On the library website, you'll find a Databases A to Z button under the search box, and you can go there and find direct links to Education Source or ProQuest Education journals. When I was preparing these notes, I did notice that quite a few of the TESOL journals are actually in Education Source in full text as opposed to ProQuest Education, so I would start with that database first. The other thing that you want to do is use effective search terms and put them together in strings that will focus on your topic. I've kept these examples really broad, but depending on where you go with your research, you may want to add terms or modify those terms. And anything in this document that's a blue link should take you to the example that I'm showing you. I've put the URLs, embedded them in the text for you. So another thing to do is, when the assignment states use scholarly or peer-reviewed articles only, filter your searches to return only those types of articles. Another thing that we've talked about in class is not using dissertations, and so for that to happen, you would select Not from the drop-down menu of filters and then type in dissertations into the text box. That way, there's no chance that you actually will select a dissertation as a research article. I also have this note here about foreign language learners and the abbreviation FLA for foreign language acquisition. While this is focusing on teachers of English, could be that research about foreign language acquisition in general, because these students are learning a language that's foreign to them, would also be relevant for a search term or for some of the resources that you might need. I'm going to show you some examples, but I'm just going to go through these research tips first, and then I'll move over to my browser and I'll show you those examples. Another thing that I think is really important in order to be more successful with research and to focus where you're looking, particularly if searching on the open web leaves you feeling somewhat overwhelmed, is to start to know your profession's organizations and their publications, both in the US and abroad, because there are TESOL organizations in Australia or the UK and other countries, Canada, for example, and they will be completing research on how to effectively teach students English as well. I've given a few examples here and linked them to the database that the full text is found in, for the most part. But one thing that I learned when I was preparing this is that TESOL Quarterly, which is one of the leading research journals produced in the United States, is only available in our databases as a citation. The full text isn't there. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. You absolutely should take a look at what the articles are in that journal. But if you find one, you're going to have to request the full text, and that can take 1 to 3 days to receive. So planning a little bit in advance for your papers that are coming up is a good idea. Another thing that's good to know is that some journals focus one issue on a particular topic. And that can be really helpful when you're writing a paper on that topic, because in that single issue, you will find articles by many different people, but they're all related to the same theme. And that's pretty common in research journals. And then lastly, when you find an article that is really interesting to you or that's on your topic, look at the reference list at the end of the article. And in particular, for this strategy of like knowing what the journals are that are publishing articles on your topic, take a look and see what journals they're citing in the article that you've just read. You can then use our Find Journals tool to determine if we have full text access to those articles. And then if we don't, you can request the article that you found from the library's website. And again, articles generally take 1 to 3 days, and those are 1 to 3 business days to receive. They're delivered in a digital format, so they're a lot faster and easy for us to get for you. So now I want to show you the Find Journals tool. I'm on the library home site, and that Find Journals tool is right here. And again, this is the place you want to go if you're trying to figure out if the full text for a particular journal is available for you through one of the CityU databases. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in TESOL and click on search, and we'll see what we get. Notice that this is for titles that begin with TESOL. I could also say title contains all words, and search for any publication that has TESOL in the title anywhere. That added one item to it, the journal perspectives. So depending on what word you're using and what you're looking for, it'll influence the results here more or less. In this case, I'm going to scroll down and show you the TESOL journal. This is one of the publications from the United States organization that focuses on teaching English language learners. And so I'm going to point out a few things. One is that this tells you right off the bat that the journal is peer-reviewed. And then it also tells you that it's available in our education source database, and that it goes back in full text as far as June 1st of 2012. And then here where it says to 1 year ago, the reason it doesn't give you full text to the most current edition that's available is because the publishers want to try to encourage professionals to actually subscribe to the journal, so they make it a little bit harder to get to the full text. They make those of us who use databases such as Education Source wait until a year after publication to be able to access the full text directly. That doesn't mean you can't get a copy of an article that's more recent, but it does mean that you have to request it. So sometimes what you'll see is more than one database listed. In this case, they're all on the same line, sort of record date range. These are both EBSCO collections, both Education Research Complete and Education Source. City University subscribes to them both as a package. In this case, TESOL Journal is only available in Education Source from EBSCO, not in their Education Research Complete package. So anyway, all you have to do to get to the journal is to click on that link, and I'll show you what happens when you do that. What this does is this opens a journal page, and there's more information here for you. You can search within this publication, so I'll show you what it looks like if you click on that. That takes you to an advanced search screen where the journal limiter information or filter information is already included, and then you can type in a term that you might be interested in learning more about, such as writing. Notice that we're not limiting to peer-reviewed here or full text, but we do already know this is a peer-reviewed journal because we found that out from the journal finder page. So I'm just going to click this. I actually don't know what the results are going to be. There are 76 articles, some of which are in full text, some of which you would need to request if you wanted to read the article in full. You can look at the abstract for the article by hovering over this piece to learn a little bit more about the study. And again, this abstract starts by saying this study. That's an indicator that this is research. It tells you what the study is trying to understand. It tells you that the research is collected through recorded classroom teaching, teacher researchers' memos, learner reflections, and learner independent EFL writing. And that the analysis is using grounded and priori approaches. And if you don't know what those are, you can look those up in the resources on research methodologies that are provided in this course, or search for those on Google. But this is enough information right here for you to know that this is a qualitative article, and it identifies some of the methods, the qualitative methods that were used to conduct the study. So this would be an appropriate article for you to request. Let's look at this one. I don't know what this one is going to be like. Let's look at the abstract of this one. This study investigated how explicit strategy instruction may shape the student's use of metacognitive knowledge and how that knowledge promotes self-regulation. It does tell you the setting, a 2-year associate degree program in Hong Kong. It was over the course of a 15-week writing course. And so you can see there's different kinds of information included, but it does give you an idea here that the data is student recall, individual interviews, language learning histories, and text analysis. Those, as soon as you see the word interviews, it's a big clue that this includes a qualitative research methodology. For the text analysis, that might be something, it could be qualitative, or it could be something that they've converted to be more of a quantitative analysis. So you can go in and take a look at that. There are several methods that have been used in this study. They didn't just do interviews. They also have these language learning histories, stimulated recalls, and text analysis. And typically, a research study will include more than one method to see if, by measuring different components of what they're trying to understand, if all of those measurements support what they expect will be the outcome of their study. So, let's see. I am going to go back now to the journal page. So we tried searching within the publication. The other thing I want to point out is there's more information on this page about the journal. You can find out who the publisher is and see it comes out of the UK. This tells you that the bibliographic records, those are the ones that don't have full text, start as early as April 1st of 2012 with a handful of articles, selected articles, probably those that were most often cited, going back as far as 2001. It tells you that there's a 12-month delay. Again, that's something that the publisher sets. That's also sometimes referred to as an embargo. You can't get access to full text published within a year of whatever date you're searching. It tells you it's an academic journal, that the subject is English as a second language and teaching and instruction. This is good information to know. You can use these subject terms to do a brand new search if you want to, and search by subject terms instead of keywords to find additional articles from other sources that are in this education source database. It gives you a brief description of what's included in the journal, and it does point you to the publisher's website, but typically that's not very helpful. It lets you know how often the publication comes out, typically 4 times a year, and that it is peer-reviewed. Another way that you can look at journals from this issues from this journal rather than searching within the publication is to browse. So I'm going to go back to 2016. I'm going to expand this list, and you can see all the issues listed here that were published in 2016. Because of the year-long embargo, it's unlikely that we would have full text access to anything after Volume 7, Issue 2. But I'm going to go ahead and click on this link and show you what that does. This takes you basically to the table of contents for the TESOL Journal Volume 7, Issue 1. These are all of the articles that were included in the journal. And as I said, sometimes you'll see that there are specific themes that the journal is focusing on. Sometimes the articles don't follow a particular theme and they're more varied, but it can be helpful to just view a particular issue, and if you want some research that's really current, sometimes it's looking at journals, browsing from this page can be, well, I think it can be kind of fun to see what's recently been published. The other nice thing about looking this way and figuring out, well, what have they been publishing recently, is that you can start to see, well, where's the research happening? What are the things that my future professional peers are interested in studying right now? So let me see a second, let me do that. So I'm going to go back to this Volume 7, Issue 1 and show you one of the articles that I'm using as an example for you is this one, Getting Them Speaking, Classroom Social Factors and Foreign Language Anxiety. And you'll find that on this handbook handout that I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to bring that up here. Here is the landing page for that article that has more information about the article, and I want to point out a few things about this. Then I'm going to go back to the worksheet, show you some things, and then we'll come back here. If you want to provide a persistent link to this article, you need to click on the permalink over here, and then this URL pops up. This is what you want to copy and paste and add to your assignments. If you use this address, this is specific to you and your login for this particular search session, and if you send me that URL, it won't work for me. I'll get an error message. So again, click on permalink when you're in an EBSCO database. It will, let me do that one more time, click on it. Oh my goodness. Well, I timed out. Anyway, it'll pop that URL up here for you, and then you can copy and paste that and give it to me. A lot of information that you need for your citation is included right here. This shows you the title. Notice that they have not used sentence case, so you would need to change this. This would be a lowercase t, a lowercase s. Same thing here, lowercase s, lowercase f, etc. You've got the name of the journal, you've got the year of publication, you have the volume and issue number, you've got the page numbers, and you have the author. You also can look here to see the abstract that copies and pastes from the author, what they've included in the article, and you can see subjects that you could use. So English, and if you click on one of these actually and open it in a new tab, I think this will actually, should complete a new search. It didn't. I've been having problems in Chrome with that. But you can, anyway, you can find subject terms here that could be helpful for a new search for you. So, I'm going to go back to the document that I'm sending to you. So another thing that can be really helpful for you when you're looking for research articles is to understand the basic format of an APA citation. That way you can figure out, am I looking at a journal article or magazine article? Am I looking at a book or a book chapter? Or am I looking at a website? For journal articles, what you will find is that the title does not have italics and it is in sentence case, the title of the article. The name of the journal is in italics and words in the title are capitalized. The volume number is in parentheses and it is also italicized. The issue number follows the journal number. It's not italicized. And then after the issue number, you'll see the page numbers. You might also see a DOI number. And these can be a combination of letters and numbers. Sometimes, like technically, you might see a retrieved from that points to the journal homepage, but there's less and less of that included in APA citations. The information is hard to track down, and at CityU, it typically isn't required. In the adult education program, and I'm going to post an announcement for everyone in the class about this, it is recommended that you include that persistent URL for the articles, and that's not APA style, but it makes it easier for your instructors to find and look at the resources that you're citing if they want to do that as they're evaluating your papers. They'll do it anyway, even if you don't provide it, but it makes it easier for them and they would appreciate it. So I'll make a note of that. With a book citation, what you'll notice is that it's the title that's italicized. And if the book is anything beyond a first edition, you'll also see that there's a second edition or a third edition or a fourth edition note. The other thing unique about books is it will include the city and the state, so San Francisco, California, Seattle, Washington, New York, New York are examples of that. And then the publisher's name will be capitalized. And so again, the only thing in a book citation that's italicized is the title. In an article citation, the only thing that is italicized is the name of the journal. So I've tried to give you sort of a template for these that you can look at and use to compare with things that you find, assuming that those things are formatted correctly. Even if they're not formatted correctly, you likely can tell that it's a journal. It may have journal in the title of the citation. It probably will still have a volume and an issue number and page numbers, so those are things to look out for. For the websites, typically those start with the author if it's like a blog post, or the name of the organization that is that hosts the website. There often is a year associated with that, and then the title of the page in sentence case. And for websites, you do include the specific URL from your browser so that your reader can go back and look at the source. Excuse me. Generally, websites in a master's program should be used in a very limited fashion when you're writing an academic paper. You need to know, if you're citing them, that the person who's writing is an expert in the field. How have they backed up the information that they're writing and sharing? An example of when you might want to use that is if you're trying to find statistics on who's participating in adult education, then looking at a site like UNESCO, which is a nonprofit organization, or looking at a governmental site, whether it's the Department of Education for the state that you're researching or for the country that you're researching. Those would be times when it would be really appropriate to use a website in academic writing, but you do need to look closely at who's sponsoring the website. Can you trust the information, that it is actually accurate? If you find a website that's citing information from a government page, rather than citing that source, which is considered a secondary source, try to backtrack to the original government page that has the data. Find the data there and cite it from that location instead, from that resource instead. The other thing is that the formats of the articles you find provide many clues about whether or not the article is scholarly and research, or if it's a popular article, or even if it's a book. So we're going to go look at the F. Young article, Getting Them Speaking, and I've included a persistent link to that article in the document that I'll be sharing with you. It can be easier to identify the various headings in an article when you look at it in its PDF form. I've got two articles to show you, the Getting Them Speaking, which is in a PDF form, and this article by Huang, Authentic Activities and Materials for Adult ESL Learners, from the Journal of Adult Education, and the Huang article is in HTML format. So we're going to go back and look at these. So here's a PDF full text. I'm going to open that up. Hopefully I haven't timed out. Oh, I timed out. Okay. Let me see if I can get back to that from here. Oh, that was another. Here we go. PDF full text. Hopefully I haven't timed out of this one. I haven't. Okay, sorry about that. I tried to have everything open so we could just look at it. So looking at this article, this one has some of the headings I would expect to see, but also some of those headings are missing. But I do notice right away, this is essentially the abstract, even though it's not identified as the abstract. Just reading it, I can see, first of all, it says this study, so that's research. It gives me an idea. It's focusing on foreign language anxiety experienced by Japanese learners of English. It's students at university, and it's looking to understand why, what is it about the classroom environment that might be contributing to their anxiety. Okay, but again, looking at the headings, I'm just going to start scrolling through this article. As I do this, I'm noticing there's many citations to other sources. This section is not labeled, but it's an introduction, and I believe it's probably the literature review, or leads into a more detailed literature review anyway. So this says Sources of L2 Classroom FLA. And again, I'm looking at this and seeing that there are many references included in the text. And so I would assume that when I go back and I read that later, that that's a summary of research that other people have done that seems relevant to this current study. They provide a rationale for the study, putting it in context, why it's important. For the research and adult education paper, an area that you want to look at closely is the methodology section. This tells you exactly who was included in the study, and as we go down, they actually have this broken out. So who were the participants? How many of them were there? You can find out details like, did everybody participate in every portion of the study, or did they get data sometimes from, just as an example, say they did interviews. Maybe they interviewed 6 of the students, but then they looked at work from 60 students. So only 10% of the students were interviewed, but they looked at a larger body of actual work completed by the students. And that's good information to have as you think about how valid the results of the study are and whether or not it might apply to your teaching context. This article also gives you specific information about the data collection methods. The author provides their own analysis of the methodology, and then there's this results and discussion section where the author talks about what they believe the data from the study demonstrates to them. And as I'm looking at this, I'm noticing these block quotations. I can tell at a glance that these are quotations taken from interviews with students. So again, qualitative studies often use interviewing techniques. So this is a data presentation method that helps me understand and recognize that this is a qualitative study. And then it's also a common way that researchers present examples of their findings, actually using the voice of the people who participated in the study. Scrolling on down, they give more information about teacher age, teacher friendliness, and tone of voice. Again, these are findings from the studies, things that they believe, the information they collected, that they believe support the purpose of the study based on the information that they collected. Okay, then we come to a conclusion where the author summarizes, this is what I think I found out from the data when I did my study. And then they've given implications for pedagogy. What does this mean for the classroom? How does instruction need to change? They also identify in their own words what they think the limitations of the study are. Oh, sorry about that. And this isn't necessarily a comprehensive list of limitations. It may be, as you're reading this article and thinking about whether or not you can use some of what this researcher learned for your classroom, that the structure of your classroom is different, and so there are additional limitations that the author didn't recognize. Or, anyway, this just isn't always comprehensive. There may be additional limitations. And then this author has given you a summary evaluation of the study and suggestions for future research. What else could be learned that would inform their study question? It gives you credentials of the author, which is nice to know, and then the references here. And I'm going to scroll down, and what I start doing here is I start looking at what other sources have they cited. I'm looking for things to see like how current the resources are, 2008, 2009. There's a 2013, that's nice. That is a doctoral dissertation, so that does not qualify as a research article for the research in adult education paper. But as I pointed out, I know that most of these are journal articles because the title is not italicized, the title of the article. The name of the journal and the volume number are italicized, and many of these also include a DOI number. That's a digital object identifier number, and that's a relatively new number that's being assigned to journal articles, like within the last 3 or 4 years. So I can see, there are like the International Journal of Bilingual Education and Bilingualism. Here's a journal called Language Learning. That's an older article. There's a Modern Language Journal. This one kind of surprises me, the Journal of School Marine Science and Technology, but here's the Modern Language Journal again and again and again. So there's a journal that I am going to be interested in seeing if I can get full text access through CityU Library. And then here's the language teacher as well. That might be interesting to look up. So to find out if these are available, these journals are available from CityU Library, we'll go back to the journal, Find Journals tool. I'm going to go ahead and search for one of these that I think we don't have, but just to show you how this works. So I'm going to search for that Modern Language Journal. And I want to say title begins with. And I keep multiple tabs open in my browser so I can go back and forth. Okay, so this tells me there aren't any results for the Modern Language Journal. What that means is that we don't have full text access at CityU. But what I want to do next, because we might have bibliographic, we might have citations, so I'm going to go here to the library catalog, and I'm going to search for a publication title here, and I'm going to put in Modern Language Journal. Again, I'm doing this because I just found out that I can't get full text access to this journal that's being cited a lot that I think might be useful for me. And so I'm going to see if there are search results for it in the library catalog. And lo and behold, there are. So I now know that I can still find out what that article is publishing. What's interesting here, let me try this. Let me look at this one, Pedagogies and Practices in Multilingual Classrooms. I'm clicking Get It Now. And so it's unusual that there's a link there that says Get It Now, but we don't really have the full text. I'm going to report that to my systems librarian. You could report that link problem here as well, and we can investigate and find out why that's happening. But in the meantime, what I could do is I could say, well, I want to request it. I've got 1 to 3 days. I'm going to take a chance that it'll come in time, and if it doesn't come in time for this particular assignment that I need, if it's an article I'm really interested in, I want it anyway, and I want to read it because this is going to be my future profession. Now, if you have already created a Request Central account, which I have, and I'm already logged in to CityU, because I'm using the databases, when I request, when I click on that link, look for the item, you'll see that it takes me to an article request, because this is an article, not a book that I'm requesting, and that a lot of the information from the citation is already filled out. And so really all I have to do now is click Submit a Request, and the process begins, and 1 to 3 days from clicking the button, I'll get an alert in my email saying the item is available for me, and with instructions on how to access it. Okay, so I'm going to close that, close this. So I understand that those types of additional steps are what make the library catalog and the databases feel complicated to use. But well, and of course I'm going to say this because I'm a librarian, I think the quality of the information that the articles that you find is higher, and it's worth taking a couple of extra steps to locate those. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a different article and the headings in that article and how it looks when you're looking at that article in an HTML format. So this Authentic Activities and Materials for Adult ESL Learners is the other article that I've included in the handout. Right away you can see, here's the abstract, and it says, this article reports on a survey study investigating authentic materials and activities that ESL teachers of adults utilize and deem successful in their classrooms. It tells you that the data came from a researcher-developed questionnaire that included 9 items, that there were 30 people participating, and that 5 thematic categories emerged from the data. It also lets you know that examples of those authentic materials and activities are included in the article. Now, as you're looking at the article, again, here's the abstract, here's the introduction, here's the literature review, and there are subheadings in the literature review. Here's the methods section that goes into more detail about who participated, how the survey was conducted, what instrument was used, an analysis, how the analysis of the data was completed, what the results were that were found. And scrolling on down, there's a lot of subheadings. Here's a discussion portion where the authors talk about the findings. Here's a section that goes into limitations of the study and recommendations for future research, and then a conclusion, sort of wrapping everything up. Again, the references are a great place to look for additional resources. Here's the TESOL Quarterly. Here's an ELT, probably the English Language Teacher's Journal. It's kind of an older publication, but they might have things that are published more recently. Sometimes you do find that a journal has gone out of print, or it's changed its name. So sometimes those are a little tricky when they're older to track down. There aren't quite as many references included in this research as there were in the first article that we looked at, but that's okay. You can still see what kinds of sources they're coming from, and this is still considered a research study. Okay. So let's go back to the handout. So again, here's a link to Getting Them Speaking, the PDF article that had some of the headings we would expect. Here's a link, excuse me, I'm going to get rid of that, to the second article that was in HTML format for you. I've covered quite a bit of information in this recording, and I've moved between quite a few different screens. So I hope you've been able to follow it, and I hope that the handout is helpful with that. I'm going to go back to the library website. And to do that, I'm just going to type in library.cityu.edu. And say again, I think this is a really good place for you to start your research if you are feeling overwhelmed when you search on Google, and if you're struggling to identify whether the resources you find are scholarly, peer-reviewed journal articles, or if they're book chapters or presentations at a conference or some other kind of resource. You can search in the library catalog. I think it can sometimes be overwhelming because it includes so much. So I often recommend students begin in the databases, and most librarians also begin searching directly in the databases rather than in the library catalog. If you want to find out whether or not CityU has access to a full text journal, to articles, use our Find Journals tool for that. If you found a citation on Google And you can identify the journal title. You can come here and search for that journal and then drill down from the journal page in the database to see if we have the full text of the article. Or you can simply go under My Account and say Request Articles and fill out the form here on your own. Anytime that you can get stuck, feel free to use our Ask a Librarian service. I'm going to click on this and show that to you. This opens up a page that gives you options. Monday through Thursday, our chat service is available from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can send us an email at any time. We typically respond within 24 hours, so if you send us an email at 8 p.m., when our staff member comes back on duty the following morning at 9 a.m., first thing they do is they look for the list of email questions and they start answering those to students. The only time your answer will be delayed beyond 24 hours is if you submit it on a Saturday night, because we don't answer emails on Sunday. And possibly on a holiday weekend. Although on holiday weekends, we do assign a librarian to monitor this service and look for emails once or twice a day so that students who are using their holiday weekend to study aren't left with a 3-day gap during which they don't get any reference support. You can also call during any of our open hours, and we have our phone number, both a toll-free and a local number here, and then the hours of reference. Lastly, this isn't related to the research help, but there is a survey, it's anonymous, that you can send us about your experience using this service, and we also have a survey out right now. Again, it's anonymous, to gather your feedback on how you think we might be able to improve our service to you as a student at City U. And if you want a response from us, I think on either of those, you can give us your email or contact information and we'll reach out to you and respond to you about that as well. And we really do care about supporting the students at City U and trying to help you be successful in your studies. So if you have any questions, like I said, this is a lot of information. Please feel free to reach out to me. And I hope you find that this is useful as you get ready for your research and adult education paper.